One fateful night, a chance, an encounter with a terrified girl at the edge of the road leads to a heart-pounding journey into the darkness of a hidden cult. As I bravely follows her to an abandoned building, what begins as an attempt to rescue her, turns into a fight for survival against sinister forces that have been lurking in the shadows. With chilling whispers and an eerie atmosphere, the search for answers unveils a web of missing children and unresolved mysteries that refuse to stay buried. As they attempt to escape the clutches of this malevolent group, the lines between reality and nightmare blur, leaving them questioning their safety and sanity. Join us on this gripping tale of courage, friendship, and the harrowing consequences of confronting evil, where darkness has a way of finding those who dare to shine a light. I still see her eyes every time I close my own eyes. Her eyes wide, terrified, and standing at the edge of the road. I will never forget that night when I walked home late after visiting a friend in the city, and what I saw changed everything. It was around 11 p.m., and I was making my way back to the bus stop. The streets were quiet, and the usual buzz of the city felt eerie. I was used to the sounds of crickets and barking dogs, but that night, it was unusually silent. As I walked down a deserted part of the road near my neighborhood, I noticed a girl standing there. She looked around 10 or 11 years old, wearing ragged clothes and barefoot. At first, I thought she might be lost. "Are you okay?" I called out, but she didn't respond. Instead, she just stared at me, her eyes reflecting a kind of fear I'd never seen before. I felt a chill run down my spine. "Where is your home?" I asked, stepping closer. I wanted to help her, but the moment I took a step forward, she flinched as if afraid I would hurt her. Her eyes darted around, and then she whispered, "They are coming." My heart raced. Who was coming? I glanced around, half expecting to see something lurking in the shadows. "Who?" I pressed. She pointed down the road behind me. I turned quickly, but there was nothing there, just empty streets and distant sounds of slamming doors. When I looked back, she was shaking. "Please, you have to help me. They will take me." I was scared. It was late, and all I wanted was to get home safely. But there was something about her desperation that tugged at my heart. "Okay, where do you live?" "Not far," she said, her voice trembling. "Just follow me." Against my better judgment, I decided to follow her. We walked a few blocks, my footsteps echoing eerily on the deserted road. Finally, she stopped in front of an old building that looked abandoned. There was graffiti on the walls, and the windows were boarded up. "Here," she said. "Is this your home?" I asked. There was something off about the place. It felt wrong. "Just wait," she whispered. "They won't find me here." That's when I heard it, a low growl that turned my blood ice cold. I looked at her, only to see her face fade into a look of sheer terror. "They are here," she screamed and ran into the darkness of the building. Ignoring every instinct telling me to leave, I tried to see if she was okay. I stepped slowly toward the door and pushed it open. The door creaked loudly, sending chills down my spine. "Hello." I called out, unsure if I should have even entered. The inside was dark, with the faint smell of mold and decay. I could barely see anything, but the sounds of something shifting in the shadows made my skin crawl. I wanted to call for her, but fear kept my mouth shut. I took a deep breath and continued forward, heart pounding in my chest. That's when the lights flickered on, revealing a group of people, faces half hidden in the shadows. They looked different, almost wild. Their smiles chilled me to the bone. Something told me this wasn't a safe place. "What do we have here?" one of them said, stepping forward. His voice was calm, but there was an unsettling edge to it. It hit me then. These people were not her family or friends. It felt more like a trap. I turned to run, but they were blocking the door behind me. "You shouldn't have followed her," a woman said, stepping closer, her eyes glinting with mischief. I ran toward the back, desperate to escape, but they laughed, their voices echoing with a terrible amusement. "You think you can leave? She's ours now." I didn't stop until I burst through a side door and stumbled into the night. My heart raced as I sprinted down the street, not stopping until I reached a well-lit area and found a group of people. Breathless, I told them what had happened and reached for my phone to call the police. But when the officers arrived, they found nothing. The building was empty. The girl. There were no traces of her. Some locals told me they had been warned about strange activities happening in that area, linked to old Yoruba beliefs. They said some people would lure kids into groups, claiming they could protect them, only to turn them into something sinister. That night haunted me. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the girl's eyes in my head, the way she had looked at me, as if she had known something terrible was about to happen. I shared my story with friends, but most of them waved it off as a wild tale. "You probably just imagined it," they said. But I knew what I saw. Days turned into weeks, and I tried to forget that horrible night. Yet, the feeling of dread lingered. I avoided that part of the city, convinced that dark spirits might still linger there. One afternoon, I was chatting with a friend when I saw a flyer posted on a community board. It was a description of a missing girl, and as I read it, my heart sank. The girl from that night. The flyer included a picture of her, everything matched. The same fearful eyes, the same ragged clothes. The name was different, but I recognized her. I rushed home and searched online for more information. There were stories about missing children in that area, and they always ended badly. Some were said to have been taken by cults who sacrificed them for rituals. I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. I was obsessed. I visited the area again, hoping to find someone who had seen her, someone who could help track down the monsters that took her. Each step I took toward the old building felt heavier, my heart pounding louder. As I approached, I felt an unsettling chill in the air and noticed the oppressive silence around me. I stepped into a nearby cafe, trying to blend in. I overheard two old men talking. "They say the old building is a gathering place," one whispered. "People go missing after entering. It's a place for dark rituals, the kind that uses children." My stomach turned. "What rituals?" I asked boldly. The men looked at me, surprise crossing their faces. "You shouldn't be asking about things you don't want to know," one warned. "It's not safe." I pushed harder, determination growing. "I saw a girl. I need to know if she's alright." The other man shook his head. "If they took her, you'll never see her again. Just forget and walk away. You're lucky they didn't take you too." I left feeling more lost. As I wandered the streets, I thought about the girl, her fear echoing in my mind. I had to do something. I needed to find her. One evening, I took my phone and searched more online. I found a local forum where people shared their experiences with strange happenings in the city. I scrolled through the threads, my heart racing as I read stories about others who had seen the girl. I saw her standing alone near the old church, one post read. Another mentioned a dark figure following her. "It looked like it was trying to protect her," someone commented. But it was terrifying. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I decided to meet some of the people who had posted. Maybe, together, we could uncover the truth. I arranged to meet a few of them at the cafe where I had overheard the old men talking. The night of the meeting, I was a bundle of nerves. I arrived early, my palms sweaty, hoping they would show up. Eventually, a man and a woman walked in, both looking just as anxious. We introduced ourselves, and I explained my story. They listened closely, and soon, they shared their encounters. "I saw a girl too," the man said, his voice barely above a whisper. "In my dreams. She screams for help. I wake up terrified." He shuddered. The woman nodded. "I saw her at the park, but when I approached, she vanished." It felt like a warning. We talked for hours, sharing more stories about the girl and the darkness that lingered in the area. Each tale felt more surreal than the last. I felt a bond forming between us, united in our shared fear. Finally, we agreed to investigate more together. "The abandoned building," I said. "We need to go back there." My heart raced at the thought of returning to that place, but I was determined. We planned our visit for Friday night. I gathered my flashlight, phone, and a sense of dread as the days passed. When Friday arrived, we met at the cafe and set out together toward the building. The streets were quiet, and I could feel the weight of something unknown pressing down on us. As we approached the old building, I felt a chill wash over me. The atmosphere was thick, and my heart raced with every step. It was a different feeling this time, like we were being watched. We reached the entrance and hesitated. "We stick together," the woman reminded us, her voice shaky but determined. We nodded and stepped inside. The inside was just as dark and decayed as I remembered. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing graffiti and broken furniture. As we moved deeper, I heard the sound of whispering. It grew louder, wrapping around us like a cold blanket. I felt panic rise in my chest. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice trembling. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from somewhere deeper in the building. We all jumped. "What was that?" the man asked, wide-eyed. "I don't know, but we have to find out," I said, feeling a strange mix of fear and courage. We ventured deeper, compelled to uncover the truth. The closer we got to the source of the noise, the more the whispers seemed to swirl around us. It felt like hands grazing our skin, brushing past us. Just then, we saw flickering lights coming from a large room ahead. We approached cautiously. Peering inside, my breath caught in my throat. There were people gathered in a circle, chanting in low, guttural voices. In the middle of the circle was the girl. She stood there, eyes wide and frightened, just as I remembered. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. "We have to get her out of there," I whispered, terrified. The chilling laughter of the cult members sent shivers down my spine. Their robes flowed around them, the fabric dark like shadows. I turned to my friends. "We have to do something now." "What if they see us?" the woman whispered. "We won't make it out." But I couldn't leave without trying. "We can't let her stay here," I insisted. "We have to create a distraction." The tension was thick as we formulated a plan. The man and woman would create a commotion in one corner of the room while I would rush to the girl. We steadied ourselves, then moved. The man yelled, "Hey! Over here," as he knocked over a stack of crates. The noise echoed, drawing the attention of the cultist. I dashed toward the girl. "Come on, we are getting you out." I grabbed her arm, but she pulled back. "No. You can't. They'll come for you." Terrified, I looked back. The cult members were turning toward us, their faces twisted with anger. The woman forced the girl to understand. "We are here to help. Trust us." She grabbed the girl's other arm, and together, we pulled her toward the exit. The chaos grew, screams and shouts echoing as the cultists realized what was happening. "Run! We have to run!" I yelled. We sprinted back through the building, adrenaline fueling our escape. As we burst through the front door, fear pressing us forward, I glanced back. The cultists were close behind, fury etched into their faces. "This way," the woman shouted, guiding us down a side street. We ran, our lungs burning. I could hear the cultists yelling as they chased us. Finally, we reached the main street, where the glow of streetlights illuminated our path. I turned, and to my relief, the cultists had slowed down, hesitating at the edge of the shadows. We hurried to find a nearby cafe still open at this hour. Bursting inside, we collapsed at a table, gasping for breath. The girl, trembling, looked at us with wide eyes. "Who are you?" she managed to ask, fear still lingering in her voice. "We are friends. We are not going to let them hurt you," I said softly. The man ordered drinks as we reassured her. Soon she began to calm down, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "They'll come for me again," she whispered. "They always do." I shuddered. "We won't let them take you." "Not again." We stayed in the cafe until the sun began to rise, wrapping the girl in our jackets to keep her warm. I wanted to comfort her, tell her everything would be alright, but deep down, I felt the fear of what might follow. When the police finally arrived, I explained everything. The girl was taken to safety, and we gave our statements. They promised to investigate the old building, but I couldn't shake the feeling they wouldn't find anything. Days turned into weeks again, and life went on. The girl was placed in a care center while the police searched for the cult. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. I could still feel the cold terror wrapping around us that night. I started having nightmares, dreams where the girl was still trapped, and dark figures loomed nearby. My friends and I stayed in touch with her, visiting when we could. She spoke little about her time with the cult, but I could see the shadows lingering in her eyes. One night, I received a mysterious message. "You shouldn't have saved her. They will come for you." I felt a chill run down my spine. Was someone watching? I hurried to the cafe, wanting to talk to my friends. I got a strange message, I told them, trembling. What if they really come for us? We decided to stay closer, to not walk home alone. We began to meet up more often, keeping our circle tight. But despite our efforts, the feeling of dread never faded. Then one night, I came home and saw something on my doorstep, a simple doll, dressed in ragged clothes with wide, hollow eyes. I felt my stomach drop. It looked just like the girl. I rushed inside, locking the door and calling my friends. "You won't believe this." Suddenly, there was a loud knock on my door. My heart pounded in my chest. "Who is it?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's us," my friends shouted back. I rushed to open the door, relief washing over me. "Thank God you're here." We huddled together in my living room, fear creeping in. What if they know where we are? What if they really come for us? I couldn't shake the dread. We spent hours discussing what could happen next. I shared the message I had received, and we brainstormed ways to stay safe. Just as we thought we could breathe easy, we heard a loud crash outside. We rushed to the window and saw shadows moving in the darkness, figures lurking just outside. They found us. The panic set in. We huddled together, hearts racing. The figures moved closer, their twisted faces lit up by the streetlight. "We have to call the police," I shouted, but the phone was dead. The figures drew nearer, the chanting echoing outside my home. "It's them. They are here," I cried. And then, just as quickly as it began, the shadows faded into the darkness, leaving us trembling in fear. But I knew this was far from over. They had come for us, and we were not safe yet. The nightmare had only just begun. Thanks for watching.